Okay, Tony. Right, you know we've talked. You said you're freelance. Is it fair to say you're a broadcaster, tipster, pundit? Would that be your?
Yeah, probably not as grand as that, but yeah, I like to think I'm relatively good in what I do now.
And which of those do you enjoy the most, or are they all sort of intertwined?
But writing's always been my greatest passion. I think I'm not half bad at it. I can make a very good case. I like writing at length. Betfair allow me to do that. You know, if you work for the Racing Post, for example, you know, they're only allowed 700, 800 words, and they don't have time to build a case. I have time. They give me carte blanche to do it. I mean, I'd often fill, 2,000 plus word pieces on the next day's racing, and yeah, I like the freedom it gives me. And I my record says I'm a half good at it, and I tend to go very big prices, go on very long losing runs. But now a lot of people out there don't have the mentality to deal with losing runs, and it can be a ball they can really nag it away with you. A lot of high-profile journalists have tried their own tipping sites and tried to do columns in the Racing Post and come a cropper because they can't deal with the losing runs and not being profitable. But I go out there, and I think it's essential for every tipster to put their profit and loss on their columns. If it is, and mention prices. If they don't, I give them very little credibility, to be honest with you.
Now, I was going to mention this. You flip forward a few here, but
Yep.
you do. I know you tip big priced horses.
Yeah,
And you are a good judge. You do win money.
yeah.
But you've mentioned you get long losing runs. Do you
Yeah.
think your average podcast listener or article reader is able to deal with those sort of facts of betting life?
Yeah, well, I think so, because if everyone reads my columns, I'll always admit when I'm on a long losing run. I never overly crow about big price winners. But the people who follow me, and I would say the numbers that Betfair get readers and the length of time they're on there, I would probably put that up against most other columns. I would imagine Taylor gets a lot of clicks because he's the best out there. But the figures I get and the viewing figures I get, it's clearly an area. I think a lot of people may look at my tips and my average price would be 12, 14 to 1, and sometimes 60, 60, 50s quite regularly. I think people may look at mine and just think, yeah, it's a punt, but I'm willing to take the losing runs. They might stake accordingly, but very rarely. A lot of people revert, get a bit cowardly and just, if they're on a big losing run, they'll start chipping around 6-4 chances. I'm a terrible judge of a short price. I can tell you if a double figure price is well over, but I couldn't tell you if a 2-1 shot is a 6-4 chance, and I think that's a gift. It's a gift that I don't have. But to answer your question, my viewing figures would tend to suggest that people bear with me.
Does your tipping mirror your personal betting, or
Yeah.
it does? So you
100%. I mean, anything. I know people on TV and do tipping columns who actually don't tip what they bet, especially on TV, and it stands out a fucking mile, and it does my head in. Everything I tip, I bet, and I may have bet beforehand. I'll be honest about that. But I may wait until the column goes live, because I sit on that. I write that column. I write it, rewrite it. As soon as it's ready to go live, I check all the prices. I would often pull a tip at the last minute if that price is gone. And remember, I only tip at Betfair prices, and I don't just cherry pick all the prices. And all my tips are settled. All my exchange bets are settled at Betfair SP. So even if I spot a Rick and it's 34 on the exchange in a liquid market, I'm not going to claim a 33 to 1 win if it wins. I'll just take the rough with the smooth and settle at Betfair SP. I think it's fundamental that people who tip put their profit and loss there, record a price, a guide price, and a current price, and record their P&L. If they don't, I think they're lying to themselves and they're lying to their readers and viewers.
How relevant is their P&L in time-wise? What sort of period of time would you want them to record that P&L from?
For me, I try to do it in a yearly basis. But all my figures are there. I mean, if I've got, for example, I started afresh at the start of the flat season, and I can tell you now, I'm minus 25.8 since in the last 2 months, and that bothers me. But you're only kind of like, you know, I mentioned the 33 to 1 man who got beaten by Shorthead. I mean, they're doing so many kind of like near misses, but I'm quite happy. Look, I'm quite honest and say, look, and it does bug me. So I've had a week off, come back fresh, and I'll be lying to suggest that I want that in plus again sooner rather than later. But I'm not gonna change my MO, because I know if I start chasing shorties, that's just not me. And if I was tipping 6 to 4 chances in order to get the P&L down, I wouldn't be backing them myself. Basically, yeah. I mean, TV tipsters have it easy, don't they? Because TV tipster, everyone says, "Oh, he's a great judge." How do you know if a TV tipster is a great judge? There's no accountability. There's no P&L. There's no tracking. I mean, the racing posts are the worst, because the tipsters don't mention prices in copy. They don't mention guide prices. You know, I mean, like, I wasn't just going to mention it. It's like they have to. Racing posts haven't adapted. You know, I mean, if you read a Tom Segale or a Paul Keeley, you know, they go up at 6 o'clock, and people can be coming to that 18 hours later. There's no mention of a price there, no mention of a guide. How do they know? And the market's obviously shifted dramatically. People coming into that column afresh have got no idea what price to take. Johnny Deneen writes a column now. I mean, I couldn't disagree with somebody's column or his betting methods more than I do him. Now, you know, there's no mention of prices. Yeah, there'll be bets at the short end of the market. If he thinks it's going to win, it's fine. But, you know, I never met the guy, and apparently he's a lovely guy and stuff like that. But you'd have to be to kind of like tip and argue as he does, and still get away with it. I mean, honestly, how the Racing Post can continue on that strategy of not mentioning prices and odds and P&L is beyond me.
Are you then in the camp where if you make something a 20 to 1 chance and you can back it at 33, even if you don't particularly think it's going to win, that's the value bet? Is that you?
Yeah. I would say the overwhelming overwhelming amount of tips I have and bets I have, I don't particularly fancy. I mean, obviously, if you make a 12 to 1 chance, you can get 33 to 1 about it. It's still, you know, you're still only going to be right one in 13 times, if that's right. So by the very nature of the prices I play at, I can't particularly fancy them, and I don't particularly think they're going to win. But what I do know is if I'm getting 33 to 1 about a 12 to 1 shots, which, you know, and I do kind of half move the market as well, I'm going to do that all day long, because my betting, and I've really been tipping since maybe for the last kind of like 10 years, and it's not stressful in the fact that, you know, that people haven't got a pot to piss in, and they don't, you know, can't buy groceries, and you know, and do a proper manual job where stress is part of their life. But it does come with, I mean, I am very hard on myself. I mean, I am my own worst critic, and I take it personally. I won't go out. For example, a lot of the guys round here all come back from Cheltenham on the Friday morning this year, and I had a really bad Cheltenham, and I said, I'm not going to come out. And they all went down the local pub, loads down there, all going out, and I had a really bad Cheltenham up until the Friday, and I said, no, I'm not coming out and enjoying myself, because anybody who's been following me this week aren't enjoying themselves. They've done their money. I'm not going out and pretending I'm fun and enjoying myself. And two races in, Favour wins the county hurdle by that much. These are the margins. I tipped that at 50s, one at 40s, bigger on Betfair SP. I got a load of texts saying, "Come down now, you miserable bastard. You know, you're happy now, aren't you?" And I just thought, no, I'm not, because, you know, what you mentioned before, how many people have kept the faith with the 50 to 1 poke and things like that. But I honestly, you can have a go at me all you want, but I am really, really hard on myself, and on losing runs, I'm insufferable. But I tend to just double down and really get with it.
But I mean, you're saying that, so are you actually comfortable tipping then? Because,
yeah,
you know, you want to talk, you say that the figures, in fairness, for any tips, there should be like 12 months at least.
Yeah.
You have a bad Cheltenham, which is the hardest racing in the whole year.
Yeah.
and then you're beating yourself up.
Yeah, of course I
So,
am.
is it not putting? Is it comfortable for you to do that?
No, it's not. But I mean, like, I'd rather do this. I mean, I have fallen out of love with racing to a little bit because for various political reasons and things like, you know, we haven't really got time to go into.
Well, we have, if you want to say.
No, it's kind of like, you know, the way the sport is run. I mean, anybody who listens to me on the Weighed In podcast on a Monday and on the Racing Only Better podcasts on, you know, any number of times during the week during the big festivals, they know I'm very disillusioned with the way the sport's run, from the BHA, from the top to the bottom. I just think it's so unprofessional, it's untrue. And I get that people, you know, rail against the affordability checks. I mean, it's like you said, I'm sure a lot of people, you know, but you know, the grass is always greener. But I'm quite happy with what I'm doing. But you know, if it all stopped tomorrow and I had to go and do something different, or just had to do that, you know, I would do. But yeah, I'm happy with that because, like I say, I think I'm good at what I do. I think anybody who writes me, they're not getting a one sentence argument for a horse. I couldn't do that. If I'm going to make a case, they can make their own mind up. Like I say, I write a really thorough tip. If I'm tipping a horse, you won't just get, you know, 2 bullet points. This is why it should win. I'll write a full summary. I like to think people, it's more kind of like higher for people who want an argument. And if they read my argument and just think, no, I think he's talking bollocks. They might, a lot of people I know do read my column, people, you know, there. But, and they, you know, just because they will get kind of like a very kind of like rounded argument from the stuff like that. They may disagree with it and they just might think like I said, I'm talking nonsense and thing, but a lot of people do, if they want to dismiss it after the argument. It's like anything. If you listen to someone arguing a case on question time, etc., you give them time, you listen to them, and you just say, at the end of the day, I think you're talking bollocks, I don't agree with you, move on. But like I say, I do pride myself on the professionalism and the commitment and the analysis and the professionalism I put in.
Okay, well, coming from a Betfair background and seeing it right from the start, you've seen the sort of shrewdies, the influential money that goes in there, laying hand back. So where do you sit when you fancy one at 12 to 1 on the day it's 40? Are you having more on, or are you getting out?
Always. Never get out. I mean, we come on to it. I mean, I think...
so is Betfair less influential now than it used to be? Because that would always be a red light, wouldn't it?
We've all got our kind of like attitudes to this. There are some people who would take a loss if a horse drifted. I've always found it very strange that, and I ridicule people who say this. They say, "Oh, I was going to back it, but the price was too big." And I'm thinking, what the fuck? You know what? So a horse is 8 to 1 and you're expecting it to be 2s and you're not backing it. Now I understand the reasoning behind that. Oh, it's not fancy, but you know, if you want to, there's any number of horses that drift massively, you know, from when I put them up. But that's just the way the market is late on. I mean, you know as well as I do. You know, the market could be going on happily for 5 minutes beforehand, and then the next, you know, there's like carnage just before the off, isn't there? Yeah, I mean, like I say, everything is about price. If it's too short, I'm not backing it. If I make it a 12 to 1 shot and I'm getting 40, 50, 60, I'm going in again and again and again. And what I'll do then is, I'll just stack up the in-running lays. If I'm taking 60 and 50 and 40s, I might just stack up the in-running lays at 21, 11, 5, 4, 2.18, 1.54. And just say, if you are right, you know, you do get suspects right, don't get me wrong. I think the racing is probably I think it could be a hell of a lot straighter. And I don't really bet much during the week because of that, because, you know, sometimes you have to be on a double, you know, you have to be on a trier as well as a winner. And the lower class racing is really not for me, but no, everything is about price. And if it's much bigger than I think, you have to work on the basis of the game being straight, otherwise why are you in it?